Guys, welcome to our second day of these word problems. Real quick before we get started, what kind of snake is good at math? An adder. What kind of cowhide? Oh, I can't even talk this morning. What is cowhide most used for? Holding cows together. And lastly, what do frogs want to listen to at bedtime? Croak and dagger stories. All right, so some fun little jokes for you. We're going to go ahead and get started with something called point slope. There is an actual formula for point slope, but we are not going to be using that specific formula. We're going to keep using y equals mx plus b. What I want you to remember is that when a problem gives you a sample point, x comma y, and of rate of change of m, we're going to take these values, substitute it into y equals mx plus b, solve for b, and go from there. Okay, and so let's go ahead and get started with our first example problem. We have at Eagle Bay, it costs $10 per hour to rent a canoe. Nick and his friends rented a canoe for 3 hours, paid $45. We're going to write and solve a linear equation to find the cost to rent the canoe for $8. So again, I'm going to reread and underline key aspects. So it costs $10 per hour. Okay, that per is telling me that I'm going to be multiplying to rent a canoe. Nick and his friends rented a canoe for 3 hours and paid $45. That right there is cluing me in. That's probably my sample point. We're going to write and solve a linear equation. That's important for 8 hours. We're going to go ahead and start by just labeling some information. We could label our slope. We can label our sample point. We also need to be labeling what x and y variables represent in this case. So whenever you are attacking these story problems, it does not matter what order you do it in, whatever works out, but again, you do need to label that. So when I see $10 per hour, right off the bat, that's going to tell me that's probably my slope. Okay. Per hour, since I am solving for hours and I don't know what it is in this case, I'm going to go ahead and label my x as hours. My x variable is hours. Then I have a sample point that I also underlined, 3 hours and paid $45. So 3 hours, I paid $45. And it's my y that I have to figure out. And so in this story problem, they're also talking about cost. And so it is my total cost. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute all of this in and solve for b. When I do this, it will look like, remember, we have x, y, 45 is equal to 10 times 3 plus b. I did forget to mention I am using y equals mx plus b. I know I said that on a previous slide, but then just again to reiterate. So I have 45 is equal to 30 plus b. To keep solving for b, I'm going to subtract by 30 on both sides. When I do that, I come up with 15 is equal to b. My equation, my linear equation, y equals 10x plus 15. Okay, so the 10 is my slope, the 15 we just solved for the b. I want to remind you that for this scenario, this story problem, this linear equation will work for any amount of hours and you will always get the total cost. Now, the other thing that we need to be doing is it wants to know the cost for 8 hours. So I'm going to take my equation, and when I rewrite this, instead of writing x, we're going to write 8. And I'm going to simplify and solve. So 10 times 8 is 80. 80 plus 15, we get $95. Okay? So the cost for 8 hours is $95. I want you to take a look at this work. This is the work that we're going to be doing for all of these problems. Make sure that you are showing all work when you are doing this on your own. Let's go ahead and try another one. So this second one we have a construction company charges $15 per hour for debris removal plus a one-time fee for the use of the trash dumpster. The total fee for 9 hours of service was $195. Write and solve a linear equation to find the one-time fee for the trash dumpster. Okay, so again, I'm going to underline important aspects. A construction company charges $15 per hour for debris. Per is my, I'm going to be multiplying. We have a one-time fee for the use of the trash dumpster. So I just have to remember that there is this one-time fee that they're talking about. The total fee for 8 hours was $195. That clues me in. That's probably a sample point. We're going to write and solve a linear equation. So two things right here. We're writing and solving. We're going to find that one-time fee for the trash dumpster. Okay, so again, everything that I need to be writing down, we're going to write down slope when they give it to us, any sort of points when they give it to us, what my x and my y variables represent. Okay, so my slope, I saw that per hour, that clues me in. That's going to be $15. Okay, so again, that's a ratio, the per hour. So, and we're going to remember slope is ratios. And I can go ahead and label my x as well. So per hour. Then we have the sample point that I mentioned as we underline the total fee for 9 hours was $195. Okay, and so that leaves y, what to label y as, and in this case, they're talking about a money amount, a total fee, and so we can go ahead and label y as our total fee. Again, we're going to keep using the equation y equals mx plus b when we can to solve these story problems. Let's go ahead and start and solve for b. I'm using, again, the equation y equals mx plus b. For y, I'm going to put in 195, set it equal to, and then 15 is my slope, 9 is my x-coordinate, and plus b. So 15 times 9, I get 135. Subtract 135 from both sides, and I get 60 plus b, oh, not plus, sorry, equal to b. And then I can write my equation, y equals 15x plus 60. Okay, so this is that first part, y equals 15x plus 60. Now, the next thing that we have to do is we have to come up with that one-time fee. And to come up with that one-time fee, I'm going to use another color besides green. It just didn't show up very well on this yellow. I have to show the work to support my answer. Okay, for the one-time fee, what that means is that there was no other debris removal, okay? So it was before anything for this job even started. So hopefully you realize we're going to put in 0 for that aspect. Okay, so again, before the job even starts, just the one-time fee of the trash dumpster. And so that line just proves our point that y equals $60. Okay, so again, if you do see this on homework or test or a quiz, you need to show the appropriate work. All right, let's go ahead and jump to the next one. So I have one more example for you, and then I'll have you do number 12 on your own. So we have a company offers premium cable for $39.95 per month. Plus a one-time setup fee. The total cost for the setup and the 6 months of service was $264.70. Write and solve a linear equation to find the total cost for 2 years of service. So we have premium cable. It was $39.95 per month. Okay, so we have that per that tells us we're going to multiply, and it tells us that there is a one-time setup fee. Some other information that they give us is that for the total cost for setup was for 6 months was $264.70. We're going to write and solve that linear equation. So 2 things that we have to answer for this problem, and we're doing it for 2 years of service. So I can go ahead and start with my slope. 39.95. Again, I know that's my slope. It talked about per month. And when we're talking about that ratio, the money per money amount per month, the money per month, we know X will be our months. Other information that we can find in this story problem is a sample point. So $6 and $264.70. And Y, again, is going to be a total cost. All right. Again, we're going to use Y equals mx plus b. We'll be using this equation a lot. However, it can help us out. We'll go ahead and substitute $264.70 in for Y. $39.95 is my slope, and we'll multiply that by 6. And then we're solving for b to come up with our equation. When I do this, and it looks like on my notes, I skipped a tad bit of work. I did. 1 sec. As I am working this out. Oops, it probably would help if I type this in right. And here we go. We have $239.70 plus B. We're going to subtract that from both sides. And we have B is equaling $25. Okay, and so that's all I had for my work, unfortunately. And so, but I can write that linear equation. So the first part of that question of this problem is to come up with the equation. And here I have it, and we're going to box it in. Okay, you guys also make sure you're boxing in, circling it, so everything is easy to find. And then the last thing it says is to find for 2 years of service. Well, what we have right here is, I'm going to remember in my story problem, is that they talked about everything in months. Okay, so X is months. When they talk about 2 years, I have to make a conversion. So 2 years is 24 months. Okay, so just, keep that in mind. Always be thinking and be aware. Don't rush. So we have $39.95 times 24. We're going to add 25 to that. Okay, and when we do this, we have $958.80. We're adding 25 to that, and so my total comes to $983.80. Okay. So again, take your time, be methodical with these story problems, and just, reread. Now what I'm going to do is have you do 12 on your own. When I see you back in class, we will go over that together. Okay? I'm going to jump down to, oops, I think I hit something by accident. Here we go. 2 points. So there'll be times, story problems, where the problem gives 2 sample points. Okay? We are going to be given, we can call it x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. And so when we are given two sample points, we need to calculate slope first. Then we can use y equals mx plus b, the slope-intercept form, to help us solve. So let's go ahead and try our first example. So we have to surf the internet for 25 minutes at an internet cafe. It costs $7.25. For 40 minutes, it costs $9.80. Again, we're going to write and solve a linear equation to find the cost for surfing the web for 1 hour. So our two sample points, okay, so 25 minutes at $7.25, 40 minutes, $9.80. Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and just write this down. We're going to be using this information throughout this story problem. Okay, notice that they don't tell us anything about the slope. We're going to have to still go back and calculate slope. We need to label our x and our y variables. Okay, and so what you can do is, if you look at the x coordinates, 25 and 40, they both represent minutes. 725, 980, they both represent the total cost. Excuse me. We do need to write and solve a linear equation, and we're going to find the cost for surfing the web for 1 hour. Okay, so again, let's start by finding slope. So I'm going to do it down here right underneath where I wrote everything. So I'm going to go ahead and do and find it's the change of y over the change of x. So 725 minus 980. Since I wrote 725 first, its corresponding x coordinate is 25, so that will come first, minus 40. When I keep working this out, I get negative $2.55 divided by negative 15. I am going to keep simplifying. I'm going to simplify this down to a decimal for these story problems. Okay, so a lot of times I said we are not going to rewrite, but in this case, since we are dealing with money, again, working with a decimal makes sense. So again, when we are dealing with money, working with a decimal makes sense. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make my substitutions. I'm going to pick one of those points. So I'm going to use my first one, $7.25, substitute that in for y. My slope, we said, is 17 cents. And I'm going to multiply that by 25. And we're going to solve for b. When I do that, and I multiply that together, I get $4.25. I'm going to subtract $4.25 from both sides, and I get b equals $3. My equation is 17 cents x plus 3. Okay? And then the last thing that we need to do is we need to find for 1 hour. This problem is similar to problem number 11, where we had to convert years to months. This time, again, when we have labeled x as minutes, we're going to convert that 1 hour to minutes. So I'm going to multiply 17 cents by 60 minutes, since there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. When I do that, 17 cents times 60 is $10.20. Then I'm going to add $3 to that. For my total cost for 1 hour is $13.20. Okay, so again, make sure you answer both parts of the question. Okay, and so let's go ahead and try 14 together. So for 14, I have water boils at 100 degrees Celsius or 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Fahrenheit. The weather forecaster says it will be 25 degrees Celsius today. Write and solve a linear equation to find what the Fahrenheit temperature is. Okay, so again, we have to find information in this story problem. So it's telling us when water boils. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius or 200 degrees Fahrenheit. That's important. Okay, so it's kind of giving us one situation. Then it tells us water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So if I take this as my two sample points, okay, my bits of information, I have 100, 212, but then I also have 0 and 32, I can easily go ahead and say, well, X is always going to be Celsius, okay, because that's what works for these two sample points, and then Y has to be Fahrenheit. All right, does that make sense how we're coming up with our two sample points and labeling our variable? So again, it's coming from that very first two sentences. The weather forecaster says it will be 25 degrees Celsius today. We're going to write and solve a linear equation to find what Fahrenheit temperature is. Okay, so again, it tells us what Celsius will be. We're solving for Fahrenheit. So there's that XY connection again. We're going to write and solve a linear equation. So with this information, we are going to be using y equals mx plus b. We don't know what m is, so we're going to go ahead and start by solving for slope first. I'm going to start, remember, it's a change of y, 212 minus 32 over your change of x. So since 212 was written first, we're going to write 100 first. Subtract that from 0. And when I keep subtracting, I get 180 over 100, and we're going to have this as a reduced fraction, 9/5. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and leave this as 9/5 because we're not dealing with money. We don't need to convert to a decimal, and we're never going to be converting slope to a mixed number. We do need to come up with an equation, though. That's part of the question here in this story problem, is write that linear equation. To write that linear equation, I'm going to use, you know what? I'm going to use 032. That's a little bit of an easier sample point to work with. So I have 32 is equal to, my slope was 9/5 times 0 plus b. So I have 32 is equal to 0 plus b. And so b is going to be 32. My equation, y equals 9/5 x plus 32. Okay, there you have it on that one. Now, the last part of this question was to what is Fahrenheit when Celsius is 25 degrees? So using that equation that we have come up with, we're solving for y, our Fahrenheit, when x, my Celsius, is 25. And (9/5) times 25 is 45. 45 plus 32 is 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so for 15, I'm going to have you try that on your own, but in that very first sentence, if you're looking and reading along with me, the value of a car decreases at a constant rate. Keep that in mind as you are creating your slope. Okay, your slope should reflect a car decreasing at a constant rate. So again, think about that. I do want you to try it. Make sure you're doing it in pencil, so in case you do make a mistake, you can erase and fix it in class. All right, hey, that's it for today's notes. Thanks for following along. I'll see you guys next time.